First of all, thank you to all of you, Swayamsevaks and other friends who are here. I might tell you that keeping this organization in its pristine form is very necessary for India's security, because in 1975, when there was utter darkness in India and total censorship, Jayaprakash Narayan felt that I should come abroad and publicize all the things that are not being publicized in the West, so that through the Western media and BBC, Voice of America, the people of India can get to know what is happening. So I came here with the support of Madhav Mule, who was the General Secretary at that time of Sarkar, and I landed in London. I knew nobody. Of course, I'm familiar with London, America and all, having taught for 10 years before going back to India in the United States. But for coming actually with an arrest warrant on my head, escaping from India, and landed in the airport, and lo and behold, there were 10 Swayamsevaks present to receive me. And then we built an organization. And then I came to America. There were the organization was built by Jitendra Kumar, Mahesh Mehta, Mr. Shinde in California, and there all these people put together a network. And I traveled to 23 states before I decided to rattle Mrs. Gandhi by going back to India, despite an arrest warrant, reward, being declared proclaimed offender, Interpol notice, 18 cases on my head. I landed up in India, went into Parliament, made a short speech and disappeared, and came back again. And my escape again wouldn't have been possible, but for Swayamsevaks in different places. In fact, my second escape was from via Nepal. And that time, the Prime Minister of Nepal was a Swayamsevak. So, after the emergency and then the return of Mrs. Gandhi, because I became a friend of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, who used to sit across the aisle in Lok Sabha with me, he persuaded me to say hello to his mother, which I didn't do those days. And then she asked me, first of all, I asked her, why did you do this silly thing of ordering an election? You had the country under control and you could have carried on for a long time. Well, she said that, this is, I came to Parliament and despite an arrest warrant, and went off, so it became clear that there was an underground. And therefore, to preempt further progress with underground, I wanted to hold elections, which I thought I would win. She lost. And the losing also was because, why was it that in the north, most of the northern Indian states, we won almost 100% seats and very few in the south? Because that time the Sangh's organization was much stronger in North India than South India. And so she said, it's really because of this network that you built up abroad and the RSS network within India, which convinced me that the emergency was not getting normalized, so declared elections. So, that was a tribute that the elections had to be held because of what Swayamsevaks all over the world were doing. Keeping the issue alive, the democracy is dead. It's not, those days it was accepted as normalcy for third world countries to give up democracy. And we were the first country, having lost it, regained it, and the credit goes to the Swayamsevaks all over the world. So I would like to say that what you are doing here in organizing the Sangha is a very, very, very vital duty for the integrity of our nation, because we never know when, at what stage, the network would be required again. Uh, at the moment, I'll start by making a few general comments, and then perhaps questions would be better. So you can ask me on any topic, because I'm a politician, I can speak on any topic. So, we came to power in 2014, that is we means BJP, essentially on three bases. I mean, three bases were existing which enabled us to come to power and get absolute majority after 33 years. No party had got absolute majority in the center. First was clearly, of course, the availability of Narendra Modi as a personality who had created an impression that he had done excellent governance in Gujarat, and consequently the governance principle that we will bring it all over India became a factor. The second factor was the thorough damage of the Congress people in corruption, some of them going to jail in the 2G spectrum scam and other things. The Congress became discredited as a corrupt party, and the amount of black money, the being abroad, etc., all these became big issues. So corruption was also a good issue. But the most unstated part of our victory is the Hindutva basis that had developed all through the last 70 years till 2014. The electoral strategy of the Congress and the other parties like the left wing was to somehow divide the Hindu vote on the basis of caste, region, language, province, etc., and unite the minorities, particularly the Muslims and the Christians. So this principle worked very well, because somebody voted as a Yadav, somebody voted as a Jat, and etc. So the Hindu vote got distributed, divided, but the minority vote, which was say 13% of the Islamic people and perhaps 3% of the Christians, so about 16% of the Muslims and Christians who form the minority, so-called minority, they voted solidly. And so with the help of the division of the Hindu vote, they managed to get a big chunk of the seats in Lok Sabha by getting 33-34% of the votes. Now, what happened because of this Hindutva movement was that the BJP, which maximum vote was 21%, jumped to 31%, and we added 8% more through the NDA partners. So together about 39% vote enabled us to get this absolute majority. And it was not just a thin majority, but a very substantial majority. Today NDA is about 324 MPs in Parliament. We need 272 for a majority. Now, over these last 3 years or 3.5 years, there has been general appreciation of our governance in terms of new things we have done. Some of it is still not much publicized. What we are doing in Kashmir has never been done before. And I hope we'll be able to report a result very soon of the complete destruction of the anti-national forces in Kashmir. And this for the first time in our history, we have raided the residences of the Hurriyat, and we have exposed their financing. And for the first time, we have been brutally retaliatory whenever we got shot across the border. Of course, the most celebrated this is the so-called surgical strike, which was a genuine surgical strike. I am a member of the Standing Committee of Parliament on Defence, And we got a thorough reporting, plus videos, etc. We saw all of it. And it was a marvelous work done by the then Defense Minister, Mr. Parikar, who's also a Swayamsevak. So that really has today's situation now, because of this destruction of the money base of the anti-nationals. Today there's no stone throwing, because stone throwing was based on a rate basis. If you throw a stone on a Kashmir police, you get 500 rupees. If you throw it on a CRP, you get 2,000 rupees. If you throw it a stone at the army, and then you get 5,000 rupees. This was the rate on which, and the terrorists used to destroy the schools so that the students would not have any opportunity but to sit at home. So to earn some money, they would come and throw stones. That has completely stopped. Schools have started functioning. The Kashmir situation today is such that Jammu, Ladakh is perfectly peaceful. And in the Kashmir part, northern Kashmir, which is mostly dominated by Shias, they are also okay. The valley, which has 10 districts, 4 are infected. And we are in the process of pacifying that. So this is when we achieve it, it will be an achievement. But you don't get to see much of it in terms of support from the media. But that doesn't matter. We'd like to keep this quiet till we accomplish the mission. There are a number of micro projects that the Prime Minister has initiated, which has made a big difference to our electoral base. For instance, the Ujjwala project, where we have gone about, I think now it may be 30 million or so households, which were for cooking purposes relying on wood and the smoke and the hell that it created for the women who did the cooking. Now they have shifted to cylinder gas, and that has had a very, very substantial effect on the electorate. The same way there are other projects. This lavatory for houses, it's not yet completely spread, but it has had psychologically a very, very big effect. And that is why in Uttar Pradesh, despite the demonetization troubles that people got, we got 75% of the seats. And the BJP did not even put up one single Muslim candidate. On the grounds we couldn't find a good Muslim candidate. I mean, what can we do? It's not our fault if good Muslim candidates don't come and apply. But we were not ashamed of the fact that we didn't get a good Muslim candidate. And despite that, in 125 on 125 constituencies of Uttar Pradesh out of 404, which are normally held, cannot be won unless you have Muslim support. We won 85. And the reason is that women by and large, Muslim women by and large, voted for us on the grounds that we are the only ones who will remove triple talaq, which promise we have now kept by going to the Supreme Court and getting an order on that. So we have done almost the opposite. We have tried to unite the Hindus and divide the minorities. Instead of the other way around, of dividing the Hindus and uniting the minorities. This formula is going to carry us quite comfortably, according to me, into the 2019 elections. There is a genuine problem which we have to address not by denial, but by accepting, and that is the macroeconomic position has been badly handled for a variety of reasons. First of all, we should have sent home all those foreign trained experts who came to India with one leg in India and one leg here, like Raghuram Rajan. And Raghuram Rajan became Reserve Bank governor. We continued him. And from day one, I was saying that his policies will destroy India, particularly the small and medium industries. His idea was that you should raise interest rates to control inflation. Well, that's one way of controlling inflation, but it will be like a doctor who, seeing the high temperature of a patient, decided to kill him because that's a sure way of bringing down the temperature. So you destroy the economy, and the depression thus created reduces inflation, no doubt about that. But that policy is typically of this MBA types who come and occupy economic positions. Economics is a very, very complex subject. There is one portion which is microeconomic, where you deal with bilateral transactions. So I am a trader. If I raise my prices, naturally demand for my product will reduce. So in that way, the classic opinions that we hold as laymen, that if prices rise, demand will fall, is correct in microeconomics in bilateral transactions. But macroeconomics, which is the economy, is an integrated system. It's a general equilibrium system. And there none of these standard laws apply unless you work out all the implications of what you do. If I may make a small digression and tell you about the depression that took place in this country in 1930. How did it come about? It came about because the President of the United States was unhappy with the high rate of inflation. He called all these economists and asked them how to reduce the unemployment. And they said because the wage rates are so high due to labor unions, therefore the President must speak to the labor unions and reduce voluntarily the wages so that employment can increase. Now what happened is that after the wage cut, unemployment increased further. And nobody would understand till, of course, economists like John Maynard Keynes, and then, of course, later Paul Samuelson, who was my teacher and later my co-author in a classic work on index number theory. They all brought in the mathematical approach to economics, which led to a formulation which said that when you cut wages, you also cut purchasing power. And if purchasing power is reduced, demand is reduced. And if demand is reduced, then industries will start going out of business. And therefore, unemployment will increase. The same thing I tried to tell Mr. Rajaram Rajan, that you are going on raising interest rates. Then the cost of capital will also go up. And the people who will be affected will be the small and medium industries because they depend totally on banking finance. Unlike the big industrialists who can borrow abroad, international capital market. When you borrow here in this country, I think you get a loan for 2% interest rate. Whereas in our country, you can't get it for less than 12%. So therefore, our small and medium industries started going out of business. And then, of course, I made a big hue and I really raised the temperature. And finally, you would be surprised, Mr. Obama spoke to the Prime Minister of India and said it will be good for Indo-US relations if Mr. Raghuram Rajan is given an extension. And to the credit of our Prime Minister, he did not care. He sent him home, back to Chicago. If he was truly Indian, he would have done like many of us have done. He would have stayed to teach in IIM or IIT or whatever. But the first thing he did, he packed his bags and gone. Since then, others have also started migrating back to the United States. The Niti Aayog chairman has also gone back to Colombia. Our economic advisor in finance ministry, I'm hoping, will be also leaving soon. So I'm saying that we need what is called as a ground, hands-down, hands-on approach to improve the economy, but that has not happened. Why demonetization has invited so much criticism? In fact, in 2014, before the elections. Narendra Modi had appointed a committee called Strategic Action for Lok Sabha elections. So I was made chairman of that, and we had recommended demonetization, but with the condition that 6 times the 100 rupee notes that we have in circulation should be printed, and we estimate it will take 2 years. Then we also said that you should tell the people whatever cash you have, illegal, legal, you deposit it in your own bank, and government will take away 25%. You can withdraw 25% in new notes, and the rest 50% will be in fixed deposit for 5 years at 2% interest. Now, neither the finance ministry was ready with new notes. In fact, in a hurry, they brought out a 2,000 rupee note in dollar size, and it could not fit in the trays of the ATMs. So there are so many, we are totally unprepared for it. And yet, of course, the reason why, because of these micro projects that the Prime Minister is constantly doing, the impact was negligible in the Uttar Pradesh elections and Uttarakhand elections and other places. So I'm broadly telling you that on governance principle, we have done very well in national security issues. We have done very well in containing governmental corruption. There's not still one single allegation against any minister in the government. And this is the first time in our history. So so therefore I would say governance except in the area of economics, which can be rectified quickly, macroeconomics, we have done quite well to go and face the election boldly. The second is on corruption. Originally there were people in our party who said, no, let's not put Sonia Gandhi in jail or Chidambaram in jail. No? We want to run parliament smoothly, so and so on. For that I didn't care. I said, okay, then I will go and file private complaints. So I went to court myself, and on National Herald, which briefly is a fraud, which is unbelievable. There was a company called Associated Journals, which published 3 newspapers. One was National Herald, the other was Qawmi Awaz, and the other was Navjeevan, yes. So in 2008, they closed it down, saying they owe 90 crore rupees to Congress party and they can't pay it. And therefore they are closing it down. Of course they could pay it because they had 5,000 crores worth of property, all given at concessional terms by the government. So they could have auctioned any one of those properties and got enough, more than 90 crores. But they had an ulterior plan, so they closed it down. After it was closed down, Ms. Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, along with Mr. Oscar Fernandez and Motilal Vora, set up a private limited company called Young Indian, which in which 76%, or now it is 81%, but in the beginning it was 76% of the shares in the hands of Ms. Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi in equal share. That means if you have 76%, it is considered your company. Even special general resolutions cannot be brought by your opposition. So they formed what is essentially Ma Beta company. And then after the company was formed, they passed a resolution that one of the directors, namely Motilal Vora, should go and tell Congress party that, this Associated Journals Private Limited owes you 90 crores, but they've closed down. So they'll never be able to pay it back. So we are making a proposition that this 90 crores owned by you is transferred to us and we'll give you 50 lakhs rupees. Now, of course, this young Indian company, total paid up capital was 5 lakhs. Now, how they could offer to give 50 lakhs, that's another story. But it was interesting to persuade the Congress party. The young Indian company sent Motilal Vora to speak to the treasurer of the Congress party. And guess who was the treasurer of the Congress party? Motilal Vora. So having persuaded him, they accepted 50 lakhs and transferred the ownership of that debt to the young Indian. Then now Motilal Vora had the task to go and speak to the company, Associated Journals Limited, and say that this is our debt, and it was decided what he would say is, you can't pay it, so you give us 9 crore shares at 10 rupees each, which was the price in 1937. So without any shareholders meeting, without anything, the Associated Journals issued fresh shares of 9 crores at 10 rupees each and liquidated his debt and gave it in the name of Young Indian, owned by Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. Now, to persuade AJL, Motilal Vora of Young Indian went and met the chairman of the board of directors. And guess who was the chairman of the board of directors? Motilal Vora. So all 3 places Motilal Vora. And it became their property. So it's an outrageous fraud, criminal breach of trust, criminal misappropriation, 420. All these charges I piled on Ms. Sonia Gandhi and the others directors. And I must say, a young lady, Gomati Manocha, who was a magistrate, she went through the entire thing with thoroughness and wrote a 21-page order in which she summoned these people to the court to face trial. Now, when you send the summons, you are saying that prima facie we have found you guilty, and now come and defend yourself. Of course, Sonia Gandhi, with all their top lawyers, went to the High Court, Supreme Court, got nowhere. And so finally they had to come. And they came and they had to stand in the accused corner. They were not allowed to sit. The judge said, you can't sit, you are accused. And I, being the petitioner and the lawyer arguing for myself, I was, of course, had a seat. And I saw their faces when they came in and passed me and went and stood in a corner. And they were arrested. But general opinion, my party, including the Prime Minister, was that we should not send them to jail just now, because every day they will have Bhajana Mandali there in Tihar jail and making a political tamasha. So after conviction, that's another matter. So we agreed to bail, but I put a condition that 2 things have to be complied with. One, they must give a bond, so 50,000 rupees bond, and a surety, which means in case they run away, somebody else will be responsible, and that person will be caught. And so Anthony was named by Sonia Gandhi as the surety, and Priyanka Gandhi by Rahul Gandhi, etc. Now this shows that our system works. Now where the matter stands today is that I am entitled, because this case has got nothing to do but with documents. There are no witnesses. I saw him kill somebody, I saw him run away from the scene, none of that. It's pure documents, and they are public documents. So I have to get that access. So there is a section under our Criminal Procedure Code, and I've applied that, and they are resisting it. But now on the next date, I think October 21st, we have a final hearing when I'm expecting the court to give me all the documents. And if the documents are given, and they may go to Supreme Court, High Court, they may take 2 months more. I'm hoping that by Christmas Day, the trial will start. And once the trial starts, in 2 months, I'm sure of getting conviction for at least 7 years for each of them and send them to the jail. The same thing is happening with Aircel-Maxis, where Chidambaram as finance minister approved a deal between a Malaysian company, whose owner, Anantakrishnan, has very strong links to LTTE, to buy an Indian company and buy 100% of the shares of the Indian company called Aircel. Under the foreign direct investment rules, only 74% of the shares can be maximum bought. But brazenly, the Malaysian company created an Indian company which bought the remaining 26%. But the Indian company was wholly owned by the Maxis. So it was a cheating. It was a Benami company of Maxis, which came as an Indian party. So that was also open shut case. So there was, in those days, it was very hard to get anyone to convict Mr. Chidambaram. But now the government of Hindu terrorists has come to power. So we need to tell him what real Hindu terror is. Right now his son has been raided. He is found to have 21 illegal bank accounts abroad. And Chidambaram and his son together own a mansion in Cambridge, in the town of Cambridge in England. And I mean, it's now again an open shut case. But there was a lot of support for Chidambaram, not to send him to jail, from a variety of elements, including business, high business, top businessmen of the country. But must say, again, credit goes to the Prime Minister, that whenever I found a block, I would write him a letter, and you would see that that block is removed. And so the final hearing is on the final summoning by the CBI and the Enforcement Directorate of Chidambaram's son, who received all the money, from approving this project. Will be on 4th October, and if he doesn't behave properly, he will be arrested, taken to Tihar jail. And they also, Chidambaram is being interrogated, and I'm sure that he also will soon see Tihar jail. And at this rate, you may soon find Congress party having its working committee meeting inside Tihar jail. Because Shashi Tharoor also has to go. And Bhupender Hubuda, so many others there are cases going on. I would say that people expected very fast movement on this, so certain disappointment there. But I think given the system, the facilities we afford, the accused to go and appeal and so on, we have done quite a lot. And I think again we deserve a great deal of credit for what you have done on corruption. Now come to the main topic of Hindutva. There is definitely a growing awareness in the country that Hindus got a raw deal. I would say the Sikhs have also got a raw deal, and in some places the Buddhists have got a raw deal, and it's by a secular government of the past. So our job is now to see that this feeling is converted into a positive feeling, that if we unite, then we can be assured that we will be not acted upon. The process of uniting cannot be just for elections. We need a number of things to be done. One is, after all, the concept of an identity as a Hindu and its other indigenous organizations. In the Constitution, by the way, in Article 25, defines Hindu as someone who in India is not a Muslim or a Christian or a Parsi. So in other words, the Constitution defines a Hindu as in the geographical sense, as Hindus, Sikhs, Jains and Buddhists. But those are distinct religions, separate religions. But culturally, they are very similar. So the term Hindu can be used. Anyway, the identity of a Hindu, which in Sanskrit we call as asmita, has to be defined. And is defined in every other country. Only in our country we have not defined it. Let me also tell you that when Britain wanted to partition India, and they found a problem that there is an identity, legal identity called India, but there is no legal identity called Pakistan. So to create a legal identity for Pakistan, they had a bill introduced in the House of Commons in 1947 June, which was titled Indian Independence Act 1947. And the bill was passed in July 17th of 1947. And what is the entire discussion in the House of Commons show? That the aim of the British, the objects and reasons of the British, was to create a Muslim-governed Pakistan by carving out territories of India, and a Hindu-governed India. So what we inherited was that the governance of India will be in the hands of the Hindus. It was the Congress party leadership which said, no, we don't want any. In fact, Ambedkar wanted exchange of population. And he wanted to delay the independence so that this exchange of population should take place first. But everybody was in a hurry. And Jawaharlal Nehru, most of all, was in a hurry. In fact, I think part of the reason he was afraid that maybe Subhash Chandra Bose will come and he'll take over the reins of the country. So, the creation of a Hindu India identity for India was there in the very beginning. And although we spoke about secularism, Dr. Ambedkar saw to it that the word secularism didn't appear anywhere in the Constitution. Only fundamental rights are there. But fundamental rights are also subject to reasonable restrictions. For instance, fundamental right to worship is subject to restrictions on morality, on the question of public order, and on the question of health. This triple talaq we have set aside on the grounds that it is against morality. If the Muslims say that, no, this is our religion, we say sorry, but we still have a right under the Constitution to amend your religion because it goes against the morality, principles of morality. And of course there is Article 14, which says equality, and that all are equal before the law. And therefore, Muslim women are not equal before the law under Islamic law. So therefore, under the Constitution, they can be given this thing. So, therefore, that is one aspect. The second aspect is that many of the constitutional provisions are Hindu based. Article 48 says what there shall be ban on cow slaughter. Article 44 says uniform civil code. Article 340 says that Hindi shall be written only in the Devanagari script. No other. It used to be at a time where people used to write in Arabic script, Hindi script. Article 351 says that the vocabulary in Hindi shall be Sanskrit. Nobody has objected to all this. And all your fundamental rights are subject to reasonable restrictions. Now, this reading of the Constitution gave me the clue on how to get Ram Mandir built on court order. You know that the dispute was between two parties, the Hindus who claimed there was a temple and it belonged to either some Nirmohi, Akhada or Ram Janmabhoomi, Nyas, these are the two parties. And the Muslims said that this area is our property because Babur captured it and the Hindus did not have any rights to it the last 500 years. So by adverse possession, it has become ours. So the whole thing, and the Allahabad High Court gave 90% in our favor, Hindu favor, but 10% they did mischief by saying that one of the domes should be given to the Muslims to build a mosque. And that is not practical. I went to the court. First, when I went to the court, everybody said, "Who are you? You are not a party. You are neither a temple nor you have a right to Baba's property. So how do you come in?" And they were, everybody was dead against it. So I came with a new argument that I'm not interested in property. Anybody can have the property. But I have a fundamental right to worship where the faith tells me Ram was born. Okay, everybody knows there's a spot there, which even Allahabad High Court has accepted, where Ram was born. So, but today I cannot worship in any normal manner. I am put all kinds of conditions on me. There's a makeshift temple there. And therefore, either you relax the conditions so that I don't have to carry my juta with me inside the premises. There's no place to keep your chippals and all that. There's no drinking water. There is no parking lot. There's no provision for people bring wheelchairs. All kinds of, hell that people go through. Still lakhs and lakhs people come. So I'm saying you're not either relaxing the conditions, which you are saying no, till the main matter is decided, we will not relax, nor are you giving me my fundamental rights. So this became the basis on which the Supreme Court itself gave me a letter that you are a party to the dispute. That's how I got, it was lying for 7.5 years without being heard by the Supreme Court. And now 25th December has been fixed because the Muslim parties wanted some Persian documents to be translated and all. They found some excuse to delay it. I said, all right, you take your thing, but 5th is the last day. 5th we start and no further adjournment. Now, my first argument on the day when the hearing was held on August 21st was this: I have a fundamental right to worship there. Muslim parties are saying that they have a right to their property. But Supreme Court says that whenever on an issue there is a clash between fundamental right and ordinary right. Right to property is an ordinary right. The fundamental right shall prevail. So I say you don't have to hear these people at all. If you are convinced that I have a fundamental right, and there's no way you can't be convinced, then I should be given now the right to build a temple because I want to worship there. The court was stunned. Then the Chief Justice told me, "You don't mind if we hear them first?" I said, "No, I don't mind you hear them first. You hear them, But in the end, you have to hear me. And mine is a clinching argument from which nobody can escape. So I'm telling you today, we will win the case in either way. So, furthermore, I've added new facts. Masjid is not a religious place. It's a place to read namaz. Namaz can be read anywhere. In this drawing room, it can be read on the road, it can be read anywhere. That's why in Saudi Arabia they demolish masjids to build roads, to build apartment buildings. Every Muslim country demolishes and shifts masjids according to public convenience. So what is the difficulty in if we also say that you can't build it here, but you build it somewhere else, we'll give you land. So how can the Muslim parties object to that? So there is no religious argument also with the Muslims at all, because the Allahabad High Court made the mistake saying that no, Muslims should also have a place to read namaz. Yes, they can have a place to read namaz, but not necessarily in Ram Janmabhoomi. Now, in the meantime, I found that the man who built the Babri Masjid, by the way, why is it called Babri? Does any of you know?
Yes.
Who?
We all know.
You all know the real story?
Yeah. Mr. Iyer wrote a big article.
Oh, okay. You exposed all that, is it? Mr. Iyer?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes.
Okay.
He exposed all the Muslim rulers, not just Babur.
Okay, so I found that the man who, Commander-in-Chief who built it, was a Shia. So it's a Shia mosque. But the party which is pleading for the ground is a Sunni Waqf board. So we got hold of the Shias. And we see the masjid is administered by somebody called Mutwali, which translated means supervisor, and it's a hereditary post. So we traced him, and he's living in a little further away from Ayodhya, and we got hold of him, and then we got hold of the Shia Waqf board, and both of them have filed petition saying remove these Sunni Waqf board, and we are the real people, and we say even if the Supreme Court decides in our favor, this land belongs to the Ram Janmabhoomi and the temple shall be built. And now Shias are living in Ambedkar district, which is next to Ayodhya district, and there you give us land, and this is the solution. So a consent order is possible. So now the Shias are in a big soup. I mean, the Sunnis are in a big soup because nobody ever challenged them. And now the whole country, and leader after leader now is a Muslim leader saying we should have a understanding with the larger good of Hindu-Muslim unity. Masjid shall be built somewhere else. And there are 21 masjids in Ayodhya itself. And all of them have cows and goats in it because there's no Muslim there to go and read namaz. So therefore, you want to build a masjid, you can build somewhere. So I am telling you that this is one of the promises we made, and that promise we shall keep by the end of 2018. We will build the Ram. So this is part of our identity. We also, in order to promote Hindutva, have to give the correct history to our people. This present history was written by Britishers and carried over by the Nehruites. It's all bogus. There is no such thing as Aryan and Dravidian. The British propagation is that there were Dravidians ruling India, then Aryans came from Europe, came through Khyber Pass, beat the Dravidians black and blue and drove them to the south. So south is Dravidian and north is Aryan. There's no word Aryan in any of our Sanskrit literature. Word Arya is there. That only means a civilized gentleman or a gentlewoman. And Dravida is a word invented as a Sandhi word by Adi Shankara when he went to north in Shastrats to convert people from Buddhism to Hinduism. He went to Rajguraha in Bihar and had a debate with Mandana Mishra. And there Mandana Mishra first asked him, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm Dravida Shishu." Shishu they understood, but they said, "What is Dravida?" Then he explained, Tra and Vid, Sandhi, is Dravid. I mean, Travid, he said, but it soon over time it became Dravid. That means where the three coasts meet, which means South India. So Dravid is a regional term, and Arya is a term of civilization. I mean, being civilized. So therefore, there is no such thing as Aryan division. Moreover, all the genetic studies on DNA show that all Indians are the same. They have the same DNA, whether you are Kashmiri or you are a South Indian, or you are from Jamnagar or you are from Dibrugarh. The DNA is the same. Some people raise the question they are of different complexions. That's got nothing to do with race. Complexion is pigmentation. You know that Michael Jackson in this country was a black singer. By taking out his pigmentation, he became a white man. So complexion is not race. So we are all of one race. There may be here and there some trickle. Muslims and Hindus also have the same DNA. That means all Muslims in our country their ancestors were Hindus. And imagine if all the Muslims accepted that we are our ancestors are Hindus, it will become one family. Not that they are descendants of Gori and Ghazni. So also Brahmins and scheduled caste have the same DNA. And if the scheduled caste is properly educated as Dr. Ambedkar was, he can be better than a so-called Brahmin who is not properly educated. For instance, Dr. Ambedkar got a PhD from Columbia and a degree from London in law. Jawaharlal Nehru went to Cambridge and failed. I don't know of any member of the Nehru family who has passed an exam so far. But anyway, the issue is this, that the society called Jawaharlal Nehru, who couldn't pass an exam, as Pandit. But a person who got a PhD and a law degree, he is not even given a Bharat Ratna till we came to power in 1990. So, these are some of these distortions which we have to remove. We are the only country in the world which, after being conquered and ruled by Muslims and later on by Christians through the British, have not capitulated. Iran was a Zoroastrian country, 100%. Islam conquered it. 15 years they converted everyone, except the few who ran over to India. They converted everyone to Muslim. Mesopotamia, Babylon, which is now called Iraq, in 17 years they converted 100% to Muslim. Egypt in 21 years to 100% Muslim. Europe in 50 years to 100% Christian. But our country, 800 years of Islamic rule and 200 years of British rule, and you're still 80% Hindu. And if you include Sikhs and Buddhists and Jains, you're 82% Hindu. So, what is the secret for this? Every part of India kept fighting. And they all made the contributors' share to finish off the invaders. But it's not taught in history. Every Mughal has got one chapter. But there's great fighters like Rana Pratap, like Shivaji, Guru Gobind Singh. I mean, Guru Gobind Singh broke the back of the Mughals, you see. If it weren't for him, I don't think when the British, unfortunately the British came just at that period when we were most exhausted. And they took advantage of it. But the Marathas had then subsequently, building on what Guru Gobind Singh did, had gone as far as Panipat. And then see the British came in and they brought in superior weapons, and the history was delayed, what should have been done at that time itself. So does it record here? What about Vijayanagaram Empire? 300 years, right up to the borders of Bengal, starting from Karnataka. There's not even a mention in our history books. Or if at all a mention, there will be one paragraph that in South India there was something called Vijayanagaram Empire. It's a great, which was founded in Hampi, Hastinapur it's called, which is near Bijapur in Karnataka. All these have to be told to build your confidence that you're not a country who anyone came from abroad, beat you and sat on your head, which is essentially what people are taught. So these history books have to be read. For that we need scholars. You have this problem here in your here also. We have a problem there also. And since the established position is Aryan Dravidian, that India is a land of those conquerors, one conqueror after another conqueror came and assimilated himself. It's not truth. It's not based on genetics. It's not based on science. And therefore, in order to make your mind clear about your own identity, when you say Hindu, you have to have the correct history taught to you. So these are some of the things. I would also add one last word, that Hindutva not only means clarity about your identity, not only means a correct understanding of history, not only teaches you that you are all one people, you are not people who have come from somewhere else, or that you have been assimilating every possible race in the world. And besides that, we need a language which we now start learning, which has modern value, and that is Sanskrit. Sanskrit should now slowly, as Hindi becomes more and more Sanskritized, and every Indian language has Sanskrit words. Even Tamil has 42% words from Sanskrit. Once I had a quarrel with Karunanidhi on it, and finally I won the argument by saying your name is Sanskrit, Karuna and Nidhi. It's not he claimed that Tamil is a Dravidian language different from Sanskrit. So I told him, show me where in the original Tamil the word Karuna is there and Nidhi is there. So, therefore, Sanskrit, in my opinion, should be given primacy. If you abroad should, if yourself don't know Sanskrit, you should be able to make your children learn Sanskrit. It's very easy. RSS has a unit called Samskriti Bharata.
Samskriti Bharata.
I don't know whether you have a branch here.
Yes. I'm the chairman.
I know from personal experience, in 10 days they'll make you talk in Sanskrit. So, therefore, and now you are in your country, in the United States, you have so many tapes and videos and so on. So, Sanskrit should be, if there's one thing you can do to build your identity as a Hindu, or Hindutva, one principle of Hindutva, it is the furtherance of Sanskrit. And Sanskrit is now been accepted as the most conducive language for computers. Artificial intelligence, you can read the Journal of Artificial Intelligence by Rick Briggs, which shows that in London, the most famous public school called St. John's School, they teach Sanskrit to 5-year-olds to 11-year-olds. You can see this in Google. I found it hard to believe. Ultimately, I went there to check. And that school, they say we teach Sanskrit because by reciting Sanskrit shlokas, it generates waves in your body which develops your brain. So, there's no, all the language, and the scripts are all the same from Devanagari. They're very similar. You take Gurmukhi, the same principle. In Tamil, if you put ka and you want to put ki, you just put a matra, which is the same principle as Devanagari. So all our scripts are the same. So this unifying principle has to be brought out. I'm sorry it took up so much time, but since you asked me to deal with this topic of Hindutva, I thought that these dimensions of Hindutva, they have to be there. It's not enough to say, I'm a Hindu. I'm proud to be a Hindu. Yes, fine. But what do you stand for? so that the other people also get convinced. So you have to see it in these dimensions, and that's the way it is coming. Already it's spreading all over. There is a definite sentiment that the Hindus are being put down upon, and but we have to convert that into a constructive energy by saying, learn these things about your past and know who you are. Once you know who you are, then you can say what Hindutva means. That is the core of what I want to say. Thank you very much. Sorry for the time.
I have a small request, if you don't mind.